I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, April the 17th, brought to you in part by Macrocin by Bimeda. Macrocin is a bold, straight shooting telithromycin that does what it's supposed to do for you, for your cattle, and most importantly for your bottom line. For more information, go to macrocin.com. Also, Joplin Regional Stockyards. Joplin's got another good run, even though these numbers are tighter. Got 8,500 head. Be lots of yearlings there, guys. They'll get started early. They'll be on bunches by 7:30 or 8 o'clock. If you guys want to get on there, go to dvauction.com. You can view and bid that sale at Joplin Regional Stockyards, or you can call in there and put your order in to one of the order buyers there. But Joplin having big sales all the time. They're pulling cattle from a long ways away, guys, and doing a really good job. Yes, it is straw time. I put it off long enough. I realize you guys in the Northern Plains, a lot of you still scooping snow, but I've been working these production sales down here in South Texas for the last several weeks, and it's hot, and it's getting worse every day. But handling success. And that's what we have to do now. We've got this market up here. Yes, I think it's going to get higher yet. But if you're not happy with the way the cattle market is right now, you should probably look at doing something else for a living, because it is fantastic. But now we've got to handle success. I do believe that fat cattle will reach $2 a pound. We had a weighted average through Thursday over 180 on fat cattle on a live basis, so I mean, we're not that far away really. But how do we handle this success? In recent rallies, cyclical, over the last probably 30 years, by the time we got to these levels that we really liked, which they weren't quite as high as what we're at now, it was, hang on to your Wranglers, we're going back down the other side. I think this time we're going to hold up here for a while. Now, is it going to continue to go up every week for another year or two? No. At some point, we're going to moderate out here a little bit, but we've got to figure out a way to handle this success, keep the market in the cattleman's favor. Supply and demand is going to do most of that, and it's what's got us up here. It's just raw supply and demand. But nobody seems to have much confidence in us being able to handle this success. Your board speculators absolutely cannot wait to ride this market down. They look at things and basically what they've been looking at is that we're at all-time record high prices, and what do they want to do? They want to ride it down. So your back months on your cattle futures have been had a lot of pressure here the last couple sessions here of this past week, because they think it's time to go back down. They don't understand the fundamentals of the cattle market, the supply and demand, and that we're going to hold up here for a little bit. What scares me is once we lose April here, in another couple of weeks, we're going to be working with a spot June live cattle contract that is way undervalued. I mean, terribly undervalued, and it lost position late last week. Again, sitting at under 163.75 on a market with a weighted average in your 5-area feeding region over 180. That's not anywhere close. I'm afraid that that basis that's in there is going to, cause a lot of basis jumping, which we normally see. But because, people don't want to work together. Your cattle sellers don't want to work together. And even though we don't have that many negotiated fat cattle sellers anymore, they're still all out for themselves. And they're tempted by that basis, because it would end up making their cattle bring more just by basis jumping at lower bids, with what probably could be a $10 plus basis there, unless something happens and we get a boost under this June live cattle contract. But it's very discerning there. I don't know what's going to happen there. Either there's an opportunity for it to go up a bunch, or we could be in trouble once we lose this April live cattle contract, which was up big this past week. But these fat cattle sellers, they've got to stay current. Don't get backed up. I mean, yeah, I know now some of these guys have been getting a lot of money for these fat cattle, and some of them are nervous that they're not going to get it. Some of them just want more. Some of them are holding out maybe too long in cases, but you got to stay current. Keep selling these cattle, and take the profit and go on. But wait till later in the week to sell those cattle. Don't be just being a weak sister and taking those steady bids early in the week. These packers are very, very hungry. They're very short bought. They're basically hand to mouth right now. And so we've just got to figure out ways to handle this success. You look at your futures market on cattle futures for last week. April live cattle, Monday was up 30, Tuesday was up 92, Wednesday was up $1.97, Thursday up 122. Friday had some profit taking there, down 75 cents, with your April live cattle futures ending the week at 174.75. That was up $3.68 for the week. Now June is the one that is driving me crazy here. June live cattle futures, soon to be our spot contract, set at 163.72 at the end of the week. That was up 62 cents for the week. Up 62 cents for the week. Live cattle prices were over $7 higher for the week, and our June live cattle futures contract was up 62 cents for the week. Ridiculous. April feeder cattle, Monday was up 30, Tuesday was up $1.17, Wednesday up 12 cents, Thursday up 45, Friday up 72, up every day of the week. April feeder cattle contracts ended the week at 203.40, up 278 for the week. May was up $2.50, ending the week at 207.90. May corn was up 22.75 cents a week for the week. At 666.25. Huge gains for the week. But your new crop December, pretty much everybody's got their corn bought until we get to the new crop as far as feeding cattle. And December was only up 3.25 cents a bushel at 5.60 at the end of the week. May beans up 8 cents for the week at $15.50 a bushel. November up 8.25 cents a bushel at $13.01.5. Fat cattle trade up through Thursday of last week, 70,600 head of negotiated fed cattle sales in your 5-area feeding region. And then we had a little bit more on Friday, not a lot more, but a little bit more. But live sales of finished steers and heifers in your 5-area feeding region had a huge range from 170 all the way to 186 last week, confirmed. That was $3.50 to $8 higher as a price spread. Your weighted average on live steers at 180.35 at the end of Thursday's trading. We're going to have a little bit more on Friday, so it's going to be a few pennies higher than that yet, but that 180.35 would be $7.25 higher than last week's weighted average. Your dress sales ranged in price from $284 to $298. Guys, $298. I remember middle of last week, whenever we started getting some $290 trade, we thought that was the extreme top, and ended up getting as much as $298 confirmed. That's $12 to $15 higher dress basis on your price range. Your weighted average on dress steers $289.75 in your 5-area feeding region, up $11.10 compared to the end of last week's weighted average there, and it's going to be a smidge maybe higher there, not a whole lot if it does move, because there wasn't a whole lot of trade on Friday. But on Friday we saw 700 head confirmed in Iowa, 25,200 head for the week in Iowa. Live sales on Friday was 182 to 184. Dress sales at 290. Nebraska sold 1,200 on Friday, confirmed 28,300 head for the week, and just dress sales in Nebraska on Friday at 290. Kansas, 300 head sold in Kansas, confirmed on Friday, just 11,300 head for the week, And what was the price in Kansas on Friday? $183. Now, mind you, that's bound to have been some really, really good cattle, likely moving to the north. Your bulk of your sales in the southern plains were not nearly as high as the northern plains, sitting at 176 for the most part. Texas didn't trade a lot of cattle last week and didn't have anything on Friday. 5,500 head for the week, and did not really had a complete dispersal of their show lists in Texas. I feel like they probably could have got 176, but whenever your northern plains is trading $10 higher than that, I can't blame them for not selling those cattle. But for the most part, your northern plains sold fat cattle from 180 to 186, $7 to $8 higher, and dress sales from 285 to 290, which was also $7 to $8 higher. Southern plains mostly from 175 to 177, and that was $3 to $5 higher. Box beef cutout values. At the end of last week, your weighted average on all of last week's trade, choice cuts was up $9.45 at $297.91, and your late week, end of the week, Friday afternoon quote was as much as almost $5 higher than that weighted average at $302.62. Select sales, your weighted average on all of last week's sales, $281.90, up $5.36 compared to the weighted average from the previous week. And late sales were a couple bucks higher than that at $283.87. About a $16 choice select spread on last week's weighted average, and only 439 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings. It's hard to really gauge anything there. Yeah, there's a lot more beef moving because we're getting into the spring of the year where we got the biggest amount of demand, but a lot of that was contracted in previous sales and things like that. Not a lot of spot trade reported last week. Slaughter last week ended up being better than what we thought, even though we've known they've kind of been holding back, and some big plants have only gone to only four days a week on processing. But through the week, last week, 613,000 estimated. That was 10,000 more than the previous week, 25,000 less than the same week a year ago. Talk about what else is going on. Your National Beef Wire website is the place to go if you're looking for cattle markets, cattle information, production, sales, new products, industry news, you name it, whatever, all up to date, and we keep it up to date all the time. Go on to nationalbeefwire.com. You can sign up for a free electronic newsletter. This video report is attached to that every day. It can be sitting in your inbox, but check out nationalbeefwire.com. Talk about your feeder cattle markets. Your real-time index on DV auction ended the week at 205 smooth. That was up $8 compared to the end of last week, the previous week. So big gains there. $8 spread on a 7-day moving average on tons of cattle up through your middle 12 states, weighing from 7 to 899 pounds. Your cash feeders and your sale barns last week were $4 to $10 higher, with instances more sharply higher than that. I mean, huge gains in your feeder cattle. You look at a Saturday sale, Fort Scott livestock market there in Fort Scott, Kansas. I pulled these 8 loads of 8-weight steers at Fort Scott that sold on Saturday. These steers all weighed, in the 8s, and all bring over $2 a pound, ranging from $2 to $2.05. Here's the wettest stick-out sale of the day for late last week or over the weekend was Winter Livestock Auction in Winter, South Dakota. Over 2,500 head of feeder cattle there on Friday. Look at your automated market report through Cattle Market Central. See your best tested weights. 401 head of 6-weight steer calves in Winter, South Dakota. Average 646 with a weighted average price of $244.18. 348 head of 7-weight steers in Winter. Average 752 with a weighted average price of $228.72. My goodness. And look at 473 head of 8-weight feeder steers, Winter, South Dakota, with a weighted average weight of 853, weighted average price on those 8 weights of $212.04. You see why that RTI was well over $2. Heifers, 265 head of 6-weight heifer calves, averaged 651 with a weighted average price of 215.89, and 369 head of 7-weight heifers, averaged 748, weighted average price 201.54. Look at some individual quotes, and the first one I want to give you is not a rocket high one. It's one I want you to pay attention to. Santa Teresa Livestock Auction in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. That's where they cross the bulk of the cattle from Mexico into the United States. They've got a nice auction facility, as nice as you've ever been to, right there on the border. These cattle are selling on Saturdays there at Santa Teresa. Those cattle are already processed, already across the border and ready for you to buy, and they are now broadcasted on DV Auction. So you can get on to dvauction.com, call down there to Santa Teresa. Really nice people to do business with. Tito and his whole crew there are just first-rate folks. Get a hold of them, tell them you want to be approved to buy, and you can buy those cattle right there and get your trucks there and get them home and start working on them. I tell you what, they don't die. That's the main thing, guys. But they're affordable. 96 head of 505-pound steers in Santa Teresa, New Mexico, at the auction there, broadcasted by DV, and you can get in there and bid on them cattle yourself. But 96 head weighed 505 on Saturday, bring $2.25 a pound. How about St. Onge Livestock Auction in St. Onge, South Dakota? My good buddy Justin Tupper owns and runs that sale there. He sells 50 head of steer calves, weighed 574 at $271. Butcher Mackerson, no BS. Top quote for the day, for the end of last week or over the weekend, was from Fort Pierre Livestock Auction in Fort Pierre, South Dakota. 70 head, 828-pound steers bring $224.25. That's your feeder flash for Monday.